Should real estate investors get their real estate license, or is it a complete waste of time? This is one of those topics where you will hear very strong opinions on both sides. Some investors say that it's a game changer, it's the best thing they ever did. Others say it's a terrible decision. So, which is it? Today, I'm breaking down the real pros and cons of getting your license as a real estate investor so that you can decide what makes sense for you and your goals. Because as with almost everything in real estate, the answer is not one size fits all. Stick around to the end and I'll share why I personally decided to get my real estate license a few years ago. Let's get started. I'll begin with the pros because there are some definite advantages to having your license. First of all, commission savings or earnings. When you're licensed, you can represent yourself on your own deals, which means you get to capture part of the commission in those deals. You might be able to save on paying out commissions when you're selling a property, or you might actually earn part of the commission from the seller when you're buying a property. And when you buy, you can either have them cut a check to you for your commission on that purchase, or you can actually have the title company attribute that commission check towards your down payment on the property. On a $300,000 deal, we're talking thousands of dollars, so this is not just coffee money. What you can earn or save in commissions depends on your brokerage and on how each deal is structured. But the potential is real, especially if you're doing multiple deals per year. The second pro is direct access to the MLS. This is a big one. You can pull your own comps instantly. You can set up your own searches. You're not waiting on an agent to send you these things. And that's important because as an investor, speed matters. If you already have a buy box and you're analyzing deals consistently, having direct access to that data can make you faster and more efficient. The third pro is control over your deals. You can move quickly when something hits the market because you can schedule your own showings and you can write your own offers. Again, in competitive markets, speed is often what wins the deal, so not having to coordinate through someone else can be a real advantage. The fourth pro is networking and credibility. When you're licensed, you're that much more plugged into the industry. You're interacting with agents, brokers, and other professionals regularly. And because of that, you may hear about deals before they hit the market. I also believe that in some cases, people will take you more seriously because they know you're in the business. The fifth and final pro is the potential for additional income. After getting their license, some investors do choose to represent clients. Maybe they just represent family and friends, or maybe they build an entire agent business. Now, this income can be a pro, but an agent business can also be a con. We'll talk about that a little more in a moment here. Now, let's talk about the cons, because while those benefits sound great, there are some very real downsides to consider. The first con, time commitment and distraction. Getting licensed takes time. Maintaining your license takes time. Continuing education takes time. And if you decide to represent clients, that can take a lot of time. This can pull you out of being an investor and into being an agent, and those are two very different roles. The second con is fiduciary duties and legal obligations. When you are licensed, you're held to a higher standard. You have fiduciary responsibilities, you have disclosure requirements, there are additional rules that you have to follow as an agent. You don't get to just operate like a regular investor anymore. Now, obviously, you should use integrity in all of your real estate dealings, regardless of whether or not you're an agent. But becoming an agent does add an additional layer of legal complexity, and that can absolutely impact how you structure and negotiate deals. The third con is costs, and this is not a one-time thing. You have licensing fees, brokerage splits, MLS dues, continuing education costs, and many of these go on year after year. It adds up over time. So you do need some amount of deal volume to get enough value to justify the ongoing costs. The fourth con is identity conflict. Are you an investor or are you an agent? Those are two very different mindsets. An agent is in a service-based business. This means helping clients, answering phone calls, being available. An investor is focused on opportunities, numbers, and building their own portfolio on their timeline. Trying to do both at a high level is possible, but it can get messy. The fifth and final con of having your license is that some deals can actually get harder. When you're licensed, you have to disclose that. And in some off-market situations, that can really affect how a seller perceives you. Some sellers may feel more guarded. Negotiations may go differently. So in certain cases, being licensed can actually make it more difficult to negotiate a deal. So, who should actually get their real estate license? You might consider getting your real estate license if you're doing multiple deals per year, you want full control over your transactions, you enjoy working with people, and maybe you're open to building a hybrid agent-investor business. But becoming an agent probably is not a great fit if you want to stay fully focused on investing, you don't want the legal complexity, you won't get enough value for the cost based on your deal volume, or you don't want to deal with clients. Because here's the truth, a great agent can do 90% of these things for you without you taking on the time, cost, or legal complexities of having your own license. Why did I get my license? It really came down to control and access. I had already been investing for 6 or 7 years when I decided to get my license. I was doing multiple deals per year, I understood how to analyze them myself, I knew my market really well, and I wanted the control, the access, the speed to work through these deals on my own timeline when the opportunities came up. But, and this is very important, I've been very intentional about how I use my license. I'm not trying to build a traditional agent business, I'm not trying to take on a bunch of clients. In fact, in the 3 years that I've had my license, I've only taken on one client, and that's because she's a friend, agent, and investor in another state, so I knew she was well educated and experienced in real estate and she would be easy to represent here in my state of Missouri. And even with my own license, I still use other agents sometimes depending on the situation. If there's an agent who can get me in somewhere where I want to be better than I can do it myself, I'm still hiring an agent to represent me in those deals. So having your own license doesn't necessarily mean you represent yourself on every single deal. So, if I were talking to a newer investor, I wouldn't say, go get your license, unless they really want to be an agent. Instead, I would say, learn how to find deals, analyze deals, and close on your first deal. And you can absolutely do all of that without a license. If this video was helpful to you, please make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments, are you thinking about getting your license? Why or why not? But most importantly, remember to keep learning, keep growing, and have fun.